Sergeant Jesse Weeks serves with the Toronto Police Service. Along with his duties as a supervisor, Jesse is also the Greater Toronto Area Director for the Fellowship of Christian Police Officers in Canada. The Fellowship is a unique ministry dedicated to those who serve and protect. It demonstrates the Christian faith by actively supporting peace officers and their families, as well as the communities they serve.
It was a couple of years after becoming a police officer, working on the street, starting to ponder and reflect on some of the crazy experiences that you come across. And I think I realized as a young officer that I didn't know any Christian officers. So I didn't have anybody that really understood what I was going through and what I was thinking through the same filter that a Christian might see things, see the brokenness of the world, so to speak.
Constable Steve McKenzie is a tactical officer with the York Regional Police Service and has been a member of the Fellowship of Christian Police Officers for 10 years. For Steve, being part of the fellowship continues to keep him accountable to the values and ethics of his faith in Christ, as well as supporting him in his role as a Christian officer, husband, and a father.
I know that God has put each one of us on this earth for a reason. God has given me the tools to do what I need to do. So there's that confidence there. I know I need to work hard, but there is that knowledge to know that God's given me the tools to do that which He's called me to do. Faith is supposed to be acted out. And what is that? It's service. You know, you're either serving yourself or you're serving others.
It is difficult. I feel like there's always pressure to really be a proper reflection of Christ in the world. And if I'm not, I feel like I'm bringing discredit to the Lord as well as to the police service.
When I go out to enforce a criminal code, I see a direct relation, even in my own life, of maintaining that moral code that God's written on our heart. So for me, there is a correlation that fits together quite nicely.
At the end of the day, I have to tell myself that it's to please and honor God, to glorify God through my life and my actions. So when I try to look at work through that lens, I think it gives me a healthier perspective of dealing with people that might be swearing in my face, all sorts of profanities, because I'm a police officer or because they don't like authority.
The Bible also shows us, as Christians, we are to go into areas that aren't comfortable. We're not to be apathetic, complacent to the evils and the unjust things we see in society, but we need to go in there and with love and compassion, we do our best to change those situations.
I have a job with the police to represent the state and keep order and peace, but I also have a role to play as a Christian to glorify God through my actions. And I can do both, usually at the same time, if I'm thinking straight and my motivation is pure. So that's the goal. All right, today, sir.
Okay.
The reason I pulled you over is I noticed maybe I think it plays out in how I deal with people by hopefully showing more empathy and understanding and compassion in the same way that Christ would. I think about the story of the Good Samaritan. Think about the story of the father that accepts his son back after he's rebelled against him. It showcases forgiveness. And I think about Christ himself, who laid down his life for people that hated him. And he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
You know, I'm being relied on by the citizens of York Region to be able to respond to situations that I need to be physically fit to carry out the demands of what the task may be. That mimics the spiritual. I need to be spiritually tough and spiritually fit. And you know, that's where I see they kind of play into each other. And you know, if you're weak in one area, it will translate to being weak in the other area.
Well, when I think about how Christ stands with me and beside me through the tough scenarios, I think about the times where I'm on my way to calls and I do have that moment to just pause and say a silent prayer in my own mind. Especially now as a supervisor, I know that once I arrive to a scene, I'm gonna have to take charge and delegate responsibilities. So There's a lot of thoughts often going through my mind, and it's not always a conscious thought, my faith, I'll be honest. But I do think it's in the back of my heart, in the back of my mind. It's present, and I think that there's a certain peace that I feel as a result of my faith when I am in those situations. Even though I have certainly been scared on my way to situations or in the middle of situations, there's been other situations outside of policing that have scared me more. So it's not to say that police officers are going into more dangerous or scary situations than the average person might find themselves in. It's just that it's part of our job. So I think accepting that it's part of our job to go into those areas, that we're well trained, is part of the peace that comes with that. But certainly my faith adds to that sense of peace.
Sergeant Jesse Weeks, he's been able to introduce me to other officers. I've been able to introduce him to other officers who are Christians, and been able to provide accountability and support to those officers, whether they be with Toronto, whether they be with OPP, RCMP, York, Durham. For me, GTA. It's been very impactful in regards to being able to reach out and talk to them and just provide accountability and support. It's always good to be able to interact with other Christian police officers, say, hey, you know, like, I know you're doing a good job at your work, but you're also doing a good job as a Christian father, as a Christian husband, and so on and so forth. So that's where I've really been able to reap the benefits of the FCPO and the Christian officers that have been associated with it. I
try to just be solid on a daily basis and show that I'm a person of integrity, and hope that when the opportunities present themselves to chat about spiritual things, that I'm ready with the words and that the Lord will give me the words. If I'm not ready, that's something I take to heart. I try to just be solid on a daily basis and show that I'm a person of integrity, and hope that when the opportunities present themselves to chat about spiritual things, that I'm ready with the words and that the Lord will give me the words. If I'm not ready, I think about the standard for conduct in the world. For the average person, it might be, say, here. For a Christian, people expect a little more because they know, oh, you're a person of faith, so your rules or your morality might be a little higher. And then for police officers, it's maybe somewhere on the same line as Christians. Maybe some people view it higher, but for a Christian police officer, the standard, I feel personally, is quite high for myself.